Hi, good evening. Today is our March segment of our School Board Commissioner Corner. We love being here at CCTV, and we love highlighting our Burlington Public School students. Today, I am thrilled to be in the company of our leadership team with the BHS Register. And I know that we have some graphics that I'll put up, but holy moly, the BHS Register is the oldest Vermont high school newspaper. I think it was so I have it up there in a graphic, but in the 1800s, late 1800s. So I'm here today with the editors-in-chief and the managing editor. So if you don't mind introducing yourselves, telling us what year you are at Burlington High School and your role in the paper.
Yeah.
We'll start with you.
I'm Rose Howell. Full name.
Yes.
I am the co-editor-in-chief of the BHS Register, and I'm a senior.
Great.
I am Miranda Brown. I'm a junior, and I am the managing editor for the Register.
I'm Annie Hart. I'm a senior, and I am the co-editor-in-chief of the BHS Register.
So how does one find out? If you walk into BHS and you want to be a part of the Register, how is it part of your class? You pick it as a class? Is it a club? You tell me. This is sort of like the 411 or the info session for students interested in the Register, and we'll start with how do you belong to it? How do you create it? And what the impact is on the community? I'll start with you, Rose. How do you belong to it? Be a part of it?
Well, we're everywhere. I'm happy to sell it. But do you mean like my role, sort of?
Or no,
more...
like if you were an entering student, ninth grade, how would you become a member of the Register?
So before staff writers join the actual staff itself and are sort of guaranteed a spot writing on each publication, you have to take Journalism 1 as a prerequisite, which is a class.
Okay.
And so that functions very similarly to a normal class. Mm-hmm. And then once you graduate from Journalism 1, you move on to 2 and 3, which is usually run more like a standard paper. So we have kind of our office space, and we have like meetings with our advisor, Mr. Finn, who teaches Journalism 1, and yeah.
So that's great. So English. How, Miranda, did you learn about it? I know you have older siblings that went through BHS, but what was your call to finding out about it and wanting to be a part of it?
I think, honestly, it just popped up on the class registration sheet, and I saw that it was like an available class and seemed really interesting to me. And then as soon as I was in Journalism 1, I was totally set on making it past Journalism 1 and being able to just write fully independently. I really enjoyed, you have sort of like traditional writing assignments, but you also have a lot of assignments that are like, go out into the community and find someone to interview, or things that felt sort of like different than my other English classes, and that really appealed to me, so I wanted to continue with that.
I can imagine. And Annie, how about you, schedule-wise? Was it difficult I know you pick your journalism classes, but then did you start in ninth grade and go through, or is it something that you entered in sophomore or junior year?
Yeah, so I took Journalism 1 as a sophomore, and I really knew that I wanted to be on the Register, which I think was an important part of kind of surviving Journalism 1. You have to have a lot of determination, and also just the knowledge that being on the paper is something that you want, and that really helped motivate me and kept me going.
I agree. And you're constantly, so senior year, those senior editors are really looking for those 9th, 10th, 11th graders who will take the helm, like you, Miranda, being a junior, to be able to learn the roles, because I know one of the roles in all of your roles, and I know that we have a design editor as well, and we have the staff, we have a photo of the full leadership team, is that, to me, you're also proofreading. And I remember that was something that I admired greatly. So peer to peer. Can you explain, Miranda, the role of Mr. Finn as your advisor? How does he guide you, or are you're student led, but how does his role fit into your day-to-day with the Register?
I think he's sort of something I think talked to mainly the editors-in-chief, but also me about, is I think, it isn't necessarily easy or natural to be a, sort of in a leadership position as a high school student above your fellow high school students. It's not really traditional or something that you will encounter in any other class. And so I think something he's talked about is helping elevate students who are selected as editor-in-chief or some other leadership position to feel comfortable that they can make a decision. And yeah, I think like a role of his is helping students be the leaders in the class. And then of course, other more logistical things, helping decide about deadlines and other things like that.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because I think in listening to your online presence, so first let's talk mechanics. So you produce a paper. From what I can tell, and you tell me, there's one in October, there was one at the holidays, December, there was one recently in February. How many do we produce a year? Is it rough? What's the goal, Rose?
So we shifted this year to sort of a longer publication cycle because we wanted to work on more in-depth feature news stories, which has been going really well. Mo just published a really, really, really good article at the beginning of the year about the Abenaki education in the district, which is awesome. Yeah. But yeah, that's sort of due to like our longer publication cycle. But I think we have 5 on the calendar, and 2 of those, one of those is a flip book, which is the winter edition, which is like fun winter stuff as well.
Great.
And then what we're working on right now is our April Fool's edition.
I remember, I was going to ask if that's continuing, and then the senior edition as well.
Yes.
And Annie, when we talk about, so you have the printed paper, but you also, your online presence and your YouTube presence, I know you can go to bhsregister.com to your website. The YouTube, the little snippets where you're interviewing faculty, I loved those. And again, like you said, having students go up and figure out who they're going to ask. It seems new faculty. I know you interviewed Fern at the guidance counselor, and then our new PE teacher. How is that mixed in, where when you think of the register, it's not just you're writing for the paper, but you have another medium, which you could be interviewing, holding interviews, going on location like you shared, students that are interested in that angle of media. So there is some writing involved when you think about questions, formulating questions, but you're live action. You're with your mic and your camera and you're filming. And how does that Annie, how do you determine, or is that student-led, that students say, I feel more comfortable interviewing in person rather than writing a whole article?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really special things about the Register that I think is actually kind of unique compared to other papers in New England and in the nation, is that we are really working on our multimedia side of news. And you think of a newspaper, you think of just writing stories, but that's not appealing to everyone. And if everyone on the paper was just a good writer, it wouldn't be enough. We have great designers, and we're so grateful to them. We also have people like you're mentioning, Claire, who have more of a tendency towards photography, or they like talking to people. And I think we're really working on actually expanding that side of the Register, because it's often a lot more accessible for certain audiences. Our paper comes out every 6 weeks. If we can get those things out more quicker, that can be beneficial as well.
I agree. So old school, I remember we had the newspaper back in the day, so having gone back with my children for the last, since 2017, we went from the newspaper to, what do you call the format of this currently? Because it's 4-color. Would you consider it like a booklet? Or what do you call it? Still the newspaper?
We just call it a newspaper.
Newspaper,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And the BHS, so those, you hand them out. I love the anticipation. The paper is out. I love the music bed. Let's go. So to me, that energy, it really is something that everyone looks forward to reading and picking up a copy. And I know you also have circulation. I know people can look at it online, but the anticipation and excitement, and also from your design editors and students in graphics. So laying out is it, I'm going to embarrass myself, but InDesign. Oh my goodness.
Good
like,
for you.
learning about
Yeah.
InDesign is an incredible feat. Like, I think that is really intimidating too. I mean, I'm going to be 60, but those capabilities that you all have are skill sets that are so prevalent in today's society. So to me, I really appreciated the looking at the graphics, the layout, and when we talk about your storyboards and your ideas, and I took a piece from one of your Instagrams about how you break out and how you develop an issue and through different story ideas, how does that, and you do, whether you do reviews of music or movies or, you know, what are the highlights when you're all together working? It's happening during the class time, you would say, okay, and you're brainstorming. And is it all, anything's open? People can throw ideas about anything and open to, yeah. So even though you're editors, you're not dictating what the theme of the issue is. It's really a collaboration between everybody.
Usually I get my expo marker, and
We get our expo markers.
Yes.
we get our expo markers. I love my expo marker.
Yes, dry erasure, yes.
But Annie and I go up to the front and we sort of let people shout out what they want to work on. We do an inspiration minute, so the
I love
Inspo
that.
Minute, Mr. Finn's Inspiration Minute,
Okay.
where people go and find something on Best of Snow, which is a student news featured website, which is great, or just anywhere online, reputable news sources, and find something to bring back that they're inspired by. And we shout those out and think about how we could implement it on our publication.
I laughed because one of them, there were maybe future story ideas because they were blacked out, and I was like, oh, that's really exciting. And then confidentiality, like where you want to keep the stories, you know, private until they're published. I don't know if that, Miranda, is there anything that is confidential until it goes to print, or, and then another thing I was going to ask about photos. Are all your photos or your content, like if you want to do an album review, do you have to get any clearance for anything that you use in the paper, or any photos that, you know, you might be using art materials? It might be a question you don't know, but how do you, you know, grab those images?
Well, I think to the confidentiality piece, I think we definitely share it within the register staff, because
Yes.
you often, because it's so student run, often there's articles where students collaborate, group articles, of course run by the editor and our advisor. But I do think, and because you're often interviewing students, that can get the word out a little bit.
That's true.
But I do think the sort of the more controversial or contested the issue is, I think the more that confidentiality can be important, especially when it might, ruffle some feathers in the community or whatever. It can just be important to just have the finished result so people don't get sort of a skewed idea of what angle you're coming at the story from. They can just see the piece of work and not know about that beforehand. So I think confidentiality can sort of be important in that aspect. And then in terms of the photos, most of the photos we try to take, I think that honestly can be a big challenge for a student newspaper, because unlike, a more professional newspaper, you have just full-time photographers that are working for journalists, but we just really don't have that. So it's up to you to take the photos yourself or ask somebody else on the staff to take them for you. And then, so I think that can definitely be a difficulty for students, both writing the article and then figuring out something to take a picture of. But I think for album covers and stuff, I'm not sure if you guys know, I think Mr. Finn just looks up photos and then make sure that they're...
Sometimes we use Creative Commons.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've heard of that as well. Oh, I love. Okay, so we talked about what it takes, and then to print it, and then the cost of printing it, and how you sell advertisement. I know I put in there a screen grab because I want to be able to also take donations in honor of a Venmo of the BHS Register, and how community members and journalist enthusiasts for local journalism can contribute via your Venmo. And on your website it also says, I know Lake Champlain Chocolates and other advertisers can also sponsor your website to offset the costs of the printing, which is great. And then circulation we talked about. And then when we look at, there's our contact information for Mr. Finn and how you'd like to purchase ads, which I appreciate. Next was, when we think about the future of journalism, it is important to reflect on the past. And as I shared with you, knowing so many well-established journalists graduates from BHS Register, the impact we had on at the state level. I know in 2017, the New Voices law that was put into law, in the state of Vermont. Do you want to share a little bit about that, Rose? What that New Voices entitled student journalists in high school?
Yeah. So to my understanding, what happened is that a past principal at BHS tried to censor the BHS Register, and they sort of fought back on that. And since the New Voices law had just been implemented, but nobody really knew exactly what that meant,
Right.
The staff at the time and the advisor, which was Beth Fialco Casey, sort of worked with the school board at the time and the principal and the administration to develop what that actually meant in schools.
Right.
So what can be censored, what can't, and what the rights of the advisor and the writers are.
And amazing. And I know that we were, the Student Law Foundation, we've been recognized last year for newspaper journalism for not just the state of Vermont, but through the New England Journalism, and in 2017 receiving awards about that. But how amazing to be part of, and that censorship means that student voice is amplified, and that you don't have to, people aren't combing through your articles and saying, I don't want that said about this. That is incredible. So that's back in 2017, that year that the law came out, and that you've received it a number of times. Like, I have to put together your brag sheet just to be able to share with the community, or I will, in your honor, because yet again, we also have the New England Journalist of the Year, one of two, that you received this year, Rose, which congratulations. And not to diminish this year, but last year, Connor, amazing. We honored him at the school board meeting as well. And in the past as well, students receiving validation that our work is strong and speaks to not just Vermont, but all of New England, is so exciting. So it's not about the accolades, but when it's recognized, it sure does feel exciting. When I look at some of these pictures, I know we can go through some of the opportunities for students. I love, who doesn't like learning about our faculty and staff? It really is, besides the yearbook, it's an opportunity to get to know people that work in our school district. Miles is an amazing asset and new leader in our school community. But Humans of BHS, I know that was, in my generation, we did Humans of New York when we lived in New York City. I love that. It never gets old. What are your thoughts? Who runs the Instagram account? Is that another addition of responsibility to you guys, or a joint effort?
Yeah, I think running the Instagram is a bit of a joint effort.
Yeah,
I think most, basically, if you have something you want to post, you can get, and you're on the register staff, you can get the login to post it, because we want more content on the social media. But I think as the managing editor, I do a lot of the publishing of the stories on the website, which basically means just copy and pasting it.
Yes.
And then uploading any photos and anything like that. And so uploading of the stories is followed by an Instagram post with the same photo and the caption.
Consistency is key. That's what we do
Exactly.
here. We publish in the North Avenue News because the Free Press doesn't really publish local news. So we have a column each month, and then we follow it up with something, whether it's here or on BSD. So I love that consistency. That's great to hear.
But yeah, like for example, one of our design editors went to the new school and did a whole like sort of photo essay type of thing, and
Yes,
that
I
was
have a
published on our
picture of that.
Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And so if anyone wants to do something slightly more creative outside of just promoting a particular story, that's very much encouraged, and
Thank you.
be great.
Yes, and I love hearing that it's a collab because with the Superfan site, with some of our other, drama, music, athletics, when the seniors leave, some people are like, what's the password to the Instagram account? And no one knows it. And then they're like, I don't want to have to rename it. We don't want to lose all that old content. So it's
Yeah.
good that you all know the password. You can all contribute to the Instagram. Great to hear. And then other things that I was thinking about asking you, as far as when we think about staffing, how many people does it take, or how many are you limited to how many people are on the register for class size? And what is the makeup? Because I know Journalism 1 can be taken freshman or sophomore year. That's a prerequisite. So is it made up mostly of juniors and seniors?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask, especially right now, because obviously we were all on the staff last year, and we had, I think, maybe 24 people
Wow.
in the class, and this year we have 8, I think. So
Okay.
we really felt both sides.
Yes.
And I mean, I think I honestly prefer a smaller class size, because when, journalism is unlike any other class, and it's a lot more like a job, and it's a lot more like a community, and you kind of get the thrill of like working for one another, working with one another. And when there are so many people taking it for simply an English credit, there's nothing wrong with that, but they have different motivations, and that can make work a little tricky because people are not as aligned. I think a few more people could be nice.
Yeah.
So give or take like 14 versus 25
Right. Yeah.
versus 8.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Miranda, you got your work cut out for you for next year.
Yeah.
Soliciting people. I love what you said, Annie. I think that makes total sense because it's not always more manpower. It's, leadership, collaboration, and you learn at a young age, even no matter what discipline this is, whether it's journalism, working, in a job, a part-time job, or restaurant, more isn't always, beneficial, and less is you're struggling as well, So good, that's great to hear. I also know I had seen Krisha on there as well, like the weekend sports or live updates. I know that can be tough. I know my daughter Georgia as well did it, where you can give updates. Is that something that you would think of going forward, where you are talking about the sports, or even in drama, like what's happening in the music department, what's happening? Is that something that you might add in the future?
Well, right now we're sort of trying to do more broadcast in general, and figure out what that looks like when we're all working on a project together and when people have different roles. But we would love to do more live stuff for sure.
And that's within your world. I know we have a green screen at the school. We'll have a new one, a green screen media room as well. I had some pictures up here once we look at the whole show in its entirety of the old boom microphone, and now you have the great microphones that you hold in your hand and pocket, and you can use your iPhone. But that's great to hear that. So that is something that you could potentially have more interest in, and students are interested in doing that in that media realm.
And Mr. Finn actually just got his Media Factory certification.
Oh, great to use that.
Which is great because now we have access to some more high-tech equipment, which is really good. So,
Fantastic. Well, I know Annie had to leave for a few engagement tonight, so it's the three of us closing it out. What are your hopes for, first, let's talk about senior year, graduation. Students are going off. The transition, the last issue. How do you transition? Or has Mr. Finn even talked about it yet? Because it's only March.
We're not quite there yet.
Okay.
Right now, we're sort of all in on getting our broadcast up and running, as well as getting our April Fool's edition out. And then after that, we'll switch to, I'm not sure if we're going to try and fit in 2 or just 1, but our last few publications. And that'll be the senior edition, which is usually like a flip book sort of thing to celebrate the seniors, as well as put in some of our more newsy stuff and featurey stuff. So.
Fantastic. And Miranda, I remember they used to go to the classes, 9th grade classes, English classes. Will that be something that you'll be working with the rest of the staff on?
In fact, me, Rose, and Annie have already actually visited a few different 9th grade classes and just kind of advertised, encouraged people to join. So that's been great, yeah.
And I mean, you both, as well as Annie, I mean, you have a great demeanor about you. It's not intimidating. And I know students, do they ask questions during those presentations in English class? And can you share what they might be, what those questions might be?
Yeah.
If you can remember.
Students definitely have some questions. I think a lot of the questions can be about, like, you know, I think moving through Journalism 1 into the other journalism classes is pretty different. And so I think the main thing that we sort of try to emphasize is, like, although Journalism 1 is a traditional class, those are just sort of the training wheels. And it just becomes a lot, you just get a lot more independence once you leave that class. And so I think a lot of students feel like it's really challenging, Journalism 1, and I think it's an important and challenging step, but just encouraging students that you have to learn this, this, and this, but once you've gotten past that, you're really going to be, like, it's just a cool opportunity to sort of pursue what you're interested in, and people sometimes have an idea that, you know, it has to just be news, it has to just be a feature, but in reality, sort of whatever you're interested in is the direction that you can take it in, and the Register really encourages students to branch out. So if you love fashion or something, you could do a fashion column.
I was just going to say the fit check.
Yes.
I love the fit check. Like, to me, that is, the brevity of that is so fun and needed. So I love what you just said, which is that evolution of, like, structure, foundation, backbone of that journalism class, but at the same time, not everyone is interested in in-depth articles, so fit check fashion, great example. Reviews, great opportunity for students to give their input and opinion about whether, you know, whatever their view column is.
Exactly. And I'll just say, like, our design editors are some of our most important staff members because they really know how to use Canva and InDesign and all these very technical skills. And that's really how the paper gets out, doing that final step of putting all of the things together. And they do a lot less reporting and article writing than other staff members, but that's, like, what they're interested in, and that's an equally as important role on the staff. So just encouraging students, any sort of writing, videography, design, anything like that, we really honestly need more of that. Yeah. And so that's a pretty cool opportunity.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. I look forward to each of the articles. I'm so excited for your future. You want to share where you're headed next year for your talents, or what are you majoring in?
I'm majoring in journalism at Northwestern University. So very excited for that.
And again, I can't thank you enough for being here, and thank Mr. Finn for his leadership, as well as Principal Westek and Superintendent Flanagan. These are all champions of student work, as well as our community in embracing it, our faculty and staff, the opportunity for students to participate and elevate their talents and be supported by a whole school community. It really does make an impact on our school, and it has over the years and since the 1800s, holy moly, like I said in the beginning. And, you know, I look to this type of journalism as inspiring the future, tackling tough topics that are student-centered. We talk about if students are spending 8 hours a day at school, conversations are happening, you're on the pulse, you're in touch rather than out of touch with your students. Sometimes it can be so centric to your wants, but if you, you covering the school budget this month, as well as our community, our Abenaki and our community locally, those are so important that it might not be something a 17, 15, 16-year-old thinks about, but because local journalism is so few and far between in all states and local cities and communities, yours really is something that is valued. So thank you so much. So on behalf of all the school board and the superintendent and the school district, thank you for being guests here today, and I'm excited to share out this interview with you guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
All right.